Hey, all you War Wagon fans. Hey, we've been talking about the War Wagon and the history of it. War Wagon 2 debuted it in 97. I was telling a little bit about the chassis and stuff in the last episode. That's when I changed over the paint scheme. You know, the pearl pinkish purple was on the first truck, and I ran it from 93 through 96. And that color was real popular in the early to mid 90s. The pinks and the purples and the lavenders and the baby blues. But I was ready for a change. There was some nicknames for the truck that I didn't necessarily like. You know, and I don't. Some of them aren't family friendly, but you know, we had a lot of fun on the Thunder Nationals tour. You know, a lot of people ask how the pit environment was in the pits and if people argued and things. We were a big happy family. I mean, everybody would pick on each other, but we really had a good time. And of course, everybody had their nicknames. But being a pink, you know, a pinky color, that color was beautiful in person. Pictures and video don't do that color justice. That had a pearlescent, it was a pearl candy color, and it flipped kind of to a purple, to a pink. Thing was just beautiful. But so we had some nicknames, but I was ready to go something different with colors. So when we come out with the new one in 97, it was still the same body, but we gave it a facelift. I painted it my dad painted it. We did it in a candy, burgundy, kind of a brandy wine color, and that really looked good in the lights and in the sun. That was a beautiful color. The hardest part with that color was matching it. And when I started crashing and tearing parts off, you know, I had a bad tendency of ripping the back bumper off and different things. Well, it was really hard to match that color. That was a kind of a color you almost have to paint the whole vehicle to get it to match. But so I ran that whole first quarter in 97 with it. The truck did great right out of the box. Everybody was amazed at how good it ran. So then the spring of 97, a lot of you remember the U.S. Truck Fest. It was the first time they ever had, it was kind of like a big national event. That was a neat event, and it was open qualifying. They called us up-and-comers, which we were not really up-and-comers, but they had the big name guys there, and they were guaranteed. And then they had what they called us as the up-and-comers. I think total there was 29 or 30 monster trucks at this event. It was at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and it was an open qualifying event. As long as you qualified in the fast heat, you got, I forget how much money, but then each round you won, you got more money. So I went to that, got there. Sometimes I wasn't always, I guess, in the end click. They put me way at the end of the pits, which was kind of funny because we were down there all by ourselves. We were at the far end. A lot of these guys, you know, back then we didn't have the internet and we didn't have all this video and all this phones where everybody knows everything. You know, now you can't keep a secret. Now everybody knows if you're building something new and there's pictures out there. So, you know, all the big name guys had no idea that I had a new truck. They just seen my rig down there at the end, and unless they ran the Thunder Nationals tour, none of them had a clue. And so that was pretty cool and exciting. I unloaded the truck down there. We pitted beside my trailer. Well, it just happened to be I was on the far side of my trailer, so everybody else was on the other end. Nobody even knew I had a new truck till it was qualifying time. And we went out there for the qualifying, and I remember seeing some of them looking at me going, what the heck? I didn't know that was I didn't know Jeff built a new truck. Went out there, set the second fastest qualifying time for the weekend. Bob Fisher actually had the first qualifying time with the Liquidator truck. He had a truck that was a similar design from the Maximum Overkill truck. He was always very fast and just always right there. You know, he was always very consistent. And I think he had a lot of drag racing history because he seemed to be really good on the lights and stuff. And so I set the second fastest qualifying, and then, of course, all the guys are coming over and looking at the truck and asking questions because it had some weird characteristics. You know, it had some different character to it. So anyways, we did real good. The first round, I think I put out one of Alan Pizzo's truck. I think his cousin Dave was driving it. I think they called it Hyperactive, or it was before he started doing all the different cats. They had the Predator, but then I don't know if he had Pouncer or Prowler at the time. I think it was Hyperactive, but I put him out in the first round. And then the second round, I had Mike Vodders and with Black Stallion. And it was a long track. It was the longest track we had seen at the time, and it was 3 sets of cars. The truck worked great. Actually, they called me the winner at the end of that race, and then they came back and took the win away from me and gave it to Mike, and everybody was confused what was going on, and they pulled Mike and me both up into the announcer stand where the official was, and they showed us on video. And Mike must have zinged about 10,000 RPM to beat me, because he caught me in the air. I led the whole way down the track, and on the last set of cars, he passed me in the air and beat me by about a foot. It was about all it was. I mean, the truck passed me in the air right at the finish line, and like, what the world did you do? And well, I was running pretty hard. I wanted to win. And you were in front of me the whole time. So, but Mike and me go way back. I love him, so it was fine. It was one of those deals where we were just excited to be there. We got just a little bit of TV coverage. We really never got much coverage with War Wagon. With some of the politics, you got to remember back in those days, there was certain guys that had big names, and the promoters were making money off of those guys, and they didn't want other guys to get any kind of recognition. So I was kind of the Thunder Nationals guy, running with Aaron and with George, and so I was one of their boys. And some of the other promoters didn't really want another big name truck to grow, so they had their own little deals. But War Wagon 2 worked great. We ran that thing until I think it was the end of '03 was when I decided that it was time maybe to take a little break. Actually George Eisenhart was talking to me at that point about re-imaging myself and putting a different body on the truck and a different name and kind of recreating. And at the time, it was really a struggle for me. Now people do that all the time. They're always changing their names and different bodies, and but now you have the internet and things are a whole lot different. Back then, all you had was your name. And the trucks back then, the name of the truck was so important, the name of the driver didn't really matter. And I felt like I was at the top of my level with the name War Wagon, and I was so afraid to have to start over with a new name, and just didn't quite understand it. So and George had said, well, you've ran the Thunder Nationals with War Wagon for 10 years. We have to put something new. We don't want you to go away, but we've got to have something new. We need to let the War Wagon name rest for a couple years. And so I just decided, instead of spending a bunch of money trying to recreate a name and all the t-shirts and everything that's involved back in those days, things were a lot different back then too. We sold a lot of t-shirts. The t-shirts, actually, we normally made more from the t-shirts than we did the booking fee. And that's kind of unheard of now, because nowadays, not very many promoters will let you run or sell your own t-shirts. They want to have everything. Most of them want to own everything. Even the toy deals and stuff, the guys that own the trucks really get nothing out of any of that. It's really sad how that's all changed. But so I decided my business was getting really busy. I was burning the candle at both ends. George used to get stressed because I wouldn't work on the monster truck during the week. I was having to build trucks for customers and things, so I would show up at an arena with all the parts I needed to fix the truck. And I remember, it's a funny story, one Friday morning I had the truck unloaded, and we had a show that evening, and I had the transmission laying on the floor. I had the planetary hubs and everything off, the axle shafts out, and I was changing the pig in the center of the rear axle. Had all this stuff strung out all over in my little corner at the arena. And George come over about 10 in the morning and goes, "What in the world are you doing?" He goes, "We got a show tonight." And I said, "Oh yeah, we'll be good." And he used to shake his head, say, "You are stressing me out." He goes, "How in the world are you going to have this back together?" I used to tour pretty much by myself, but I had a brother-in-law that went with me some. I had a cousin and some friends, and but everybody had jobs and they couldn't really take time off, because a lot of times we'd have to leave on a Thursday or Wednesday or a Thursday. You wouldn't get back till maybe a Monday, and and I couldn't afford to hire anybody. So a lot of times, I'd run by myself. And really that's how a lot of us guys were. Charlie Pauken back when he was running Excalibur, Andy Hoffman with Nightmare, Mike Vauders, all of us, we all pretty much ran independently without any crew members. So we would just help each other. It's like I could pretty much redo my whole truck by myself, but when it came to like lifting a transmission and putting it in or out, or maybe even putting the gear head in the axle, sometimes you'd have to ask for help from somebody because just a little bit too heavy for, one person. But we all was like a big happy family. So in '03 is when I decided that I would kind of take a break for a while. Well, then I got so busy in my business life, the War Wagon, I never did really rebook it. Ended up in, I think it was 2006 is when Andy Hoffman approached me and asked if I would actually sell it to him. And that's, now looking back, I kind of regret it a little bit. But he bought the truck and then he painted it, I think, black to start with, and it's been several different colors since. Actually, last year I helped him and we painted it a blue and a white, and that was kind of cool to be a part of that again. But George had him booked, so the War Wagon ran the Monster Nationals again. But I think that was in '07 when it came back out. But hey, hopefully you guys are enjoying this. That's kind of the history on the War Wagon. I might think of some other stuff later to throw out at you, but we're going to get on to some other people and some of their stories next episode. Hit the like button. Give us your comments. We love hearing from you, and we'll see you next week.